before I play a clip that'll end this, of Raphael Warnock, proving to everybody that he is one of the dumbest men on the face of the God's green earth. I have some data to cover. He said he was asked why does the economy suck so bad? Why is Joe Biden's economy, and see the links in the video description as per usual, why does Joe Biden's economy suck so bad? Oh, we're in the throes of a pandemic. That'd be like Harry Truman during his second inaugural address saying, we're in the throes of World War II. Okay. So here's some data from I quit this in November of 2021 because it just got too arduous and I got tired of it. So I was following a whole bunch of states for about over a year and a half, and they're cataloging their COVID death rates. On October 20th, 2021, the death rate nationally was 216.705 per 100,000. The lockdowns on that same day, that's New York, New Jersey. I just call them that. They're not the only states that lock down. I just call them that. The lockdowns, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, D.C., Rhode Island, had a death rate of 270.704 per 100,000. That's way above the national rate. The non-lockdowns, the states who had never had a shelter-in-place or stay-at-home order, Iowa, North Dakota, South Dakota, Utah, Wyoming, Nebraska, Arkansas, had a death rate of 189.224. Much lower than the lockdowns, and much lower, can you believe it, much lower than the national average yet. Kim Reynolds wanted everyone to die. Those same entities, November 3rd, 2021, which is of 2021. Yeah, November 3rd, 2021. That's what I meant to say. The last time I cataloged it, because I said I'm done with this. Done it long enough. National death rate was 222.089 per 100,000. For the lockdowns, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, D.C., Rhode Island, the death rate was 272.412. And for the non-lockdowns, Iowa, North Dakota, South Dakota, Utah, Wyoming, Nebraska, Arkansas, 195.648 per 100,000. Oh my gosh, can you believe it? The states that wanted their citizens to die and said, we're not having a shelter-in-place order because we want you all to die, had a death rate much lower than the national average. I've debunked the population density argument too, so if you read through my stuff, and I'm not going to cover it here because it would take too long, but I got that objection a lot, and I've taken that objection, and I did to it what Brock Lesnar does to people in the octagon. So I think that, I can say that. So at the link above, and see the links in the video description, I have dozens of updates on COVID-19 death rates for various jurisdictions for months and months and months. Feel free to peruse them. Raphael Warnock insinuates that we're in the throes of a pandemic still, yet it seems that some states dealt with it much better, and they were the ones that had no shelter-in-place or stay-at-home order at all. I will not cover again in detail, but I'll leave you a link for it. The details on the labor force participation rate data, but you can look at it, see for yourself. This never-ending pandemic is being used as an excuse to keep in place policies that keep people from working because we're paying them not to work. I think Warnock actually believes what he's saying, and if that is the case, are we ever going to be out of this pandemic? How long will Stan Seder supporters be paid to sit on their fat asses in their small apartments eating Cheetos and being paid not to go slice the lunch meat? Or ask me if I would like fries with that. Warnock's comments also tacitly admit that the vaccines did not work and Joe Biden was not able to shut down a respiratory virus. We can't shut down the AIDS virus, which is entirely preventable if you don't have multiple partners and don't stick needles in your arm on the street corner. What makes these troglodytes think they can shut down a respiratory virus? Joe Biden did not shut down the virus, but he did shut down the economy as our labor force participation rates stay flaccid. Sorry, Stan, you're not offended at me using the word flaccid, are you, old man? Ignore these idiots who talk about the unemployment rate. They don't know dung from apple butter. In closing, Raphael Warnock is a moron. He's so dumb, even the divorcee Stan Seder knows he's dumb, and Stan Seder is a big dumb goof himself. Now to the clip of Raphael Warnock duncing himself, essentially. This guy's an idiot, and he's in the Senate. Raphael Warnock, you have to know stuff, dude. This isn't This isn't the pool hall or some fundraiser where you're just talking to 80-year-old ladies and you're chewing the fat and shooting the breeze. This is the Senate. You have to know stuff, old man.
Effectively, yeah. First of all, I think we could argue we're really in a recession. It's just a slow-moving recession, and so they're trying to say that the indicators, because they're not all present simultaneously, means we're not. But when you're at a point where a Bloomberg econ model is 100% sure of anything, that's as blaringly obvious as it goes. So we're in the Biden recession, everybody. Instead of being in the Build Back Better boom after COVID, we are in an economic downturn. Inflation is the primary culprit behind this whole fiasco. Spending is the primary culprit behind that. And who's doing all the spending against over the objections of Republicans? We know it's the Democrat Party. And this is also why, I think, Clay, people are wising up to a whole bunch of things here. When you have, for example, Raphael Warnock, and we'll play this for you guys a little later. I saw him say, when asked, well, hold on a second. This is a very basic, this is a very straightforward proposition, Clint. I want anybody who's listening to us who has doubts, which is a small segment of the audience, but if you have any doubts about whether you should vote Republican or not, we've got some independents, we've got some Democrats listening. God bless them. We're happy that they're lending us their ears. Ask yourself this question. Who's been in charge the last 2 years, and who's been pushing all the spending? And given that answer, why would you trust them on inflation? When Warnock gets asked about this, we all know, what he says? We're still in a pandemic.
Oh, of course.
This is how pathetic things are, folks. Oh, we're still in a pandemic. That's the answer? You got to be kidding me. But they're not. They got nothing else.
Well, and here's my theory. Buck. Obviously, they don't want to admit that we're in a recession before the midterm. And that's why you've got these incredibly awkward, tone-deaf Joe Biden eating an ice cream cone while he talks about how strong our economy is. But here's my prediction. You want a prediction you can write down? We're going to hit a recession next year. Joe Biden and his allies in the media will say the reason we're in a recession is because
Republicans win the midterm.
Didn't support his Build Back Better plan.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
That just so everybody out there understands, next year, this will be the argument that they make as to why we're in a recession.
We actually do have Raphael Warnock, who wants to continue to be the senator from Georgia, one of two. Here he is when he's asked, hold on, haven't you guys, meaning the Democrats, been in charge for 2 years, and isn't inflation the result of the spending you've already pushed? Here's what he says.
We've been talking to a lot of voters who say the economy is a top issue for them. Democrats have been in control of the White House, of Congress for the past 2 years. Inflation has soared. Why should Georgia voters give you another chance?
We are still in the throes of a pandemic that dragged on for more than 2 years.
It's just not good enough, Clay. It's just not good enough. Like, no one thinks that that's good enough as an answer. No way.
No, it's an awful answer. And also, I'm increasingly of the opinion that many of these politicians are idiots. Because I know a lot of you out there, no kidding.
I've been there for a long time, by the way.
Yeah, but, I mean, the guy has been campaigning full-time for a year. That's not a really difficult question. I mean, it's a good question. But it's one that is imminently foreseeable that you would be asked. How is he that bad? I mean, this is a guy who speaks every single weekend as a preacher. I mean, Herschel whipped him in their debate, and Herschel Walker is not a professional speaker. But how is his answer that bad? I mean, that they had all this time to come up with an answer to this. He's been on the trail for a year. He gets a moderately difficult question. I mean, in the sense that it's not a softball where it's designed to I mean, he could have immediately gone into KJP's awful lies about how, well, we built 10 million jobs and we're not there yet, but we're overcoming. And yet he couldn't even do it. And his default was, did his brain freeze? He just went back and said, the pandemic, as if that's a big deal in Georgia.
We're at this level, though, where the answers they give, they are not believable. They're not credible. And then additionally, the Democrats, when they have to respond to these things, they give not credible answers that even if they were true, would cause their own problems, right? So if it were true we were still in a pandemic, wouldn't then people want to ask, hold on a second, what about all the vaccine mandates and Biden's going to get us through this and he's going to listen to the science? And so you're admitting the economy is crap, but your best position here is to say the economy is crap because we're still in the awful pandemic that the sitting president effectively ran most of his campaign on beating. So it's like you either go from one massive failure to the other massive failure. And the funny part is the reality is we are in a recession. It is the Democrats' fault. Oh, and we are still not actually, well, I shouldn't say we're still in a pandemic. They didn't beat the pandemic. We just all got sick is effectively what happened.
That's exactly right. They are going to argue next year when the inflation becomes, remember, for a long time they've been arguing we're not going to be in a recession. But we clearly are going to be in a recession next year at some point.
They were first arguing we weren't going to have real inflation. Remember that? That was the first one.
Of course. I mean, and we've been right on all of this all along, but eventually they'll acknowledge that we're in a recession. They'll say that it's going to be a very short recession, and eventually their argument will become, oh, the reason why we're in a recession is because Republicans took control of the House and Senate, and they haven't passed our bills that would have kept a recession from happening. They're going to try to blame Republicans, even though this is a direct result of Democrat control of Congress and the White House. And this is inevitable. Just go ahead and put it in your bingo card that this is where we're going to be at some point next year. Now,